Hello, this is Chino Ream here with another broadcast of Starcraft for Dummies, episode number 8, as far as I know. Here we have a Terran vs. Terran, the red Aquaholic versus the blue submitter. I'm pretty sure this is the submitter, big red Russian. Alright, well this game picks up because it's long and boring off the start, nothing really happens. One thing I want to talk about is hotkeying your buildings. These guys, you'll see, they have no hotkeys throughout the match. Right off the start, you should be hotkeying your command center to 1, or to 4, or depending on your setup. I use grid, so 1 is the best for me. If you use the default, then maybe like 4, 5 is good. The point of this is because you want your units to be hotkeyed near your attack button. For me, my attack button is T, so it makes sense to hotkey near a 4, 5, 6, whereas the default it's hotkeyed as A, so you want to do your units to 1, 2, or 3, and then whatever you don't do your units to, you do to your buildings. And I want to stress how much you want to hotkey your buildings. You need to learn to play with your left hand. I used to play where I'd use all I would do is use my mouse. And when I use my mouse, I would just have my left hand sitting in my pants, pretty much playing with myself. That does nothing for you. You need to learn to effectively use your left hand in-game, in Starcraft, by the way, to move up levels to get higher up. This way you can produce units without even clicking your mouse. You hotkey your buildings and then press the hotkeys to create them. That is very big because in this game you'll see a lot of the time they're not making units. They'll be attacking and they're not making any units because they don't want to look back at their base. But if they hotkeyed, they wouldn't have to look back at their base. Alright, next. One thing I was considering while watching this replay is, well, let's first of all see there's one build going on here, the Destiny Killer Cloud Fist. Very good in TVT because you can get all the tiers of tech out, and that is very helpful against TVT, easier to tell what to counter, and if you get a quick tank, then you'll be much better position to defend with a small ball and a tank. And then that way you can effectively do the 1-1-1 build while defending yourself. Okay, yeah, it's like 1 or 2 in the morning and I'm up and I just can't sleep, so I decided to cast a game. I'm skipping through this because it gets really boring, and here's very unnecessary things that low-level players do. Creating turrets. Neither of them search, neither of them know what they're doing. You can see a armory here, so seeing Thor's. No need for any missile turrets, none at all. The blue player does not even get a starport this game. So save your minerals, don't waste them on things like that. Another thing that is coming up in this replay, he's setting up his tank. One tank here, another one comes over here later on, but he does not have his ball in any good position. Your MM4 should always be right in front because tanks work best when they have cannon fodder in front. That way they're not taking the damage, but they're sure dishing it out. I'm gonna give away a tip that I don't know if many of you may not have noticed yet, but I found, because I realized this, it helped me a lot in TVT. Look, more wasted turrets not needed. The tip is that tanks are still as effective as they used to be in TVT. And since I started playing post 1.1 TVTs, they never go tanks, and I win because of it. Point being, the only damage reduction the tanks do after 1.1 is to the Marines, because they are the only light unit. Things like Marauders still get 50 damage because they're armored, everything does. So with a 1 tank hit plus all splash damage, Marines are not effective against siege tanks any more than they used to be. they still get melted pretty quickly. And everything else has not been affected, so tank's still very effective in TVT. You can see a Banshee harass going on here. Alright, now that we're into the game, I wanna compare builds here. As we can see, we have one factory, only one racks, 3 starports, not much units going on here. On the contrary, we have one factory, 1 racks, but a lot of units. Now, these are both extremes both ways. You need to save your minerals when doing your build. You don't want to be throwing up 3 starports, which is really not necessary. When you're just wasting money, there's no need to have more production buildings than you can consistently push out. Because right now, even back in the early game, he has too much to consistently produce. He's not producing out of any of these. 2 of them sitting there while these 3 produce, and therefore leaving him with a small defensive army. Over here, the blue player just can't produce them fast enough. It's taking him a whole game to get this much. It should not take this long, because he has 2 bases, or 2 buildings. What you want to do with the early game is find a medium. I usually like 2 racks, and then maybe fast expand for minerals, or 1 racks, 1 factory. Eventually I'll end up with 3, 4, 5 racks, 2 starports, and a factory, maybe 2 factories if I'm going heavy Thor. I usually start off with going 2, 1, and then maybe a 3rd rack, so we're like 1, 1, 1. Either way, you can't overproduce on your buildings and not produce enough units because of it. You need to be able to consistently push out units out of all your structures, or it's just a waste of minerals. But then on the contrary, you don't want to be stuck with 2 and not be able to push out enough units fast enough. Also, both players made engineering bays pretty early, but neither of them upgraded with this. Upgrades are very effective. Use your upgrades. Maybe not right off the start where you have a small base, but use them. And as you can see, the tanks just got melted. No chance. None at all. And in come the Thors to rain havoc on the command centers. And he's got nothing to defend. Sure, he has cooked Banshees, but after a scan, these Thors will wreck the Banshees. And let's look at him. Look at him taking them out. He may be able to get an upper hand here. He needs to focus fire these. Oh, there goes the scan, and he's killing them off. He shall pick these off in a second. Russia just could have, if they had effectively micro there, they could have come away with a lot more units either way. Both sort of miss microing there, not getting the kill.